Do you remember all of the crazy things that you did when you were younger? You know those stories that continue to circulate and be reminisced about when you see old friends? You know, every time, I go back to Houston or Dallas, people have a very clear idea of who I am because they knew me well. No one knew me well back then. I mean, you couldn't miss me. And much of my story I always like to share it because I've come from such a different place. Pastor Alfredo also comes from that same place. And it's a testament to where we come from and the power that God can do in our lives. And I was an obnoxious ball of energy and questionable fun. And to them, my friends at Houston, Dallas, I'm always going to be crazy little Jonathan. That's what they called me. And it's crazy little Jonathan who in high school, as the mascot, would pretend to look up the drill team skirts during the football game. And I'd get scolded by the principal. And I'd do it every week. Crazy little Jonathan who wears the most outlandish outfits to the club. Crazy little Jonathan who dances on the speaker till the lights come on, begging for water. Crazy little Jonathan who says the most hilariously offensive things. Crazy little Jonathan who wore 2 different shoes to work. And crazy little Jonathan who fell asleep in the Wendy's drive-thru. And so on and so forth. All true. But my confession to you is that like most weeks, there's stories that, I would like to include about my past that do pertain to the sermon. But as I think about them, they're so wildly inappropriate that I just can't. Those tales would tarnish our church's reputation. But I'm sure you have your own stories of different degrees that made a name for yourself in your circle of friends. And it doesn't matter how long ago it was, those friends still see you in exactly the same way. Those old friends, they still see that way. But friends, they kind of change along the way. And so you expect that old friends will still see you in old ways because they are not always present in your life now. But your closer friends, those long-term friends, and your family, they were and are in your life. And they've been through it all with you. They bore witness to the wonders and the monstrosities that have made up your life. And maybe now you don't see them every day like you used to, but, as you grow older, your family doesn't just see you as the person you are now. Rather, they see you as a conglomeration of all those things that you did. They remember when you almost set the dog on fire, when you almost got arrested that time when you screwed up, when you didn't do what they advised, and all the other things that make up your past. They know and they remember because many times it was them that cleaned up your mess, our mess. And we give thanks and appreciation because where would we be? But now, things are different. Things are different. And God knows that you have been at a place of growth and a place of change and a place of liberation in your life. And that God has been working in you over time. You've learned some things. You've made some amends. And you are becoming to be the person that God chose you to be. And it feels real good. What doesn't feel good is when that reputation of who you were creeps up and leads people to doubt who you are now. That hurts when that happens. Why can't they see this beautiful thing, that is happening in your life? Sadly, most times it's the people closest to you who have the greatest doubts about your new identity. And boy, does it hurt. Why can't they see the new person that you are without attaching all that old junk? Perhaps you started a new job and you're excited about, but they say, oh, you'll probably just quit like you always do. Perhaps it's a new dream profession that you aspire to be, but they say, oh, it's not going to work out. Perhaps it's a new love and they say, oh, you'll screw this one up too. Perhaps it's a new embracing of your sexual preference, and they certainly have things to say about that identity. Maybe it's the people at your office who do not believe that you can achieve or turn things around. Perhaps it's the people at school or in a club who doubt your ability to overcome things and overcome challenges that are placed before you. There's just so many opportunities, so many people, and so little faith. Why must our reputations plague us? whatever the reason, they do, especially when it comes to our faith. And this is one that I understand very well. As my life began to change, some people just wouldn't let me change. As I started to become this new creature, moved by a God who saves, and finding that His joy has liberated me from things that have held me captive for so long. And when that happened, I rejoiced. But not everyone rejoiced with me. Many friends were skeptical of this change. They said it wouldn't last, that I was too much of a mess to be mopped up by God. Exact words. Jonathan, a pastor? Come on. Because they just, they couldn't see the Jonathan that prays. They couldn't see the Jonathan who studies the Word. They only saw Jonathan, the walking one-man drug party. Well, it's more like crawling, but you get the picture. That's what they saw, the mess. So they said it wouldn't last, but honey, it's been 10 years, and God is still with me. And He is loving me, and He is changing me every day in spite of their skepticism. And as you grow in your faith, I'm sure that you can relate in your own way to that story. Perhaps it's your family who is skeptical of this church. Skeptical that God has really taken hold in your life. How could it from there? Perhaps, it's our own community who says that somehow we can't be Christian and that's just not possible. Well, Misty, it is, and we are. So, how do we escape those reputations of our past? How do we escape our old identities? And how do we handle the rejection that we get from the new ones? This is precisely what Jesus is dealing with in today's gospel. He has been traveling, all over the region. He's been healing. He's been teaching. And at this point, everyone is amazed at Him. They could not get enough. He is no doubt a superstar. And now He is going home, headed to His hometown, Little Nazareth. And although they haven't heard Him teach before, they are so excited because they had heard all the excitement. He'd been stirring up all over Judea, and the word was getting back to them. In fact, I bet they are proud that He is coming home to preach in the Little Nazareth church. Everyone probably came out to pack the pews, proud of that hometown hero. Living in a small town, we get excited when someone does something great that puts us on the map. And it's like the RGV Cupcake Factory winning the Cupcake Wars reality show on the Food Network just recently. Makes us very proud. So Jesus, He gets up there, stands, on the altar, and He begins to teach in a room full of His town, where everybody knows everybody. His neighbors are there, His extended family is there, and He begins to teach. And they are absolutely amazed at the things that are coming out of His mouth. But it's short-lived. And that skepticism that plagues us also begins to plague Jesus. And, growing up in Joseph's carpenter shop, I'm sure he became commonly known as the boy who ran tools around the village, or the village paper boy. You see, Jesus was a common part of their daily lives when He was young. There's this musical entitled, He Lived the Good Life, the story of Jesus, and in it is a song that speculates what Jesus' childhood was like. He must have run with friends. He must have fished in the sea. He must have skinned his knee at the age of 6, perhaps even had a girlfriend. And those are odd and challenging things for us to consider, for the Jesus that we know. But long before He was Savior of the world, He was Mary and Joseph's little son. He was just a local Nazarene boy. And this is the way that the town folk of Nazareth, they still see Him in that image. His reputation, His identity frozen in time by a people who are stubborn to believe. In Samaria, they loved Him. In Cana, He could turn water into wine. In Jerusalem, He taught the rabbis a thing or two. But in Nazareth, Jesus was just Jesus, the kid from the wood shop. And so they said, where did He get this wisdom? What is that gift that He's been given? What's with these amazing things that are being done by His hands? Isn't that Mary and Joseph's son? Isn't he that kid that used to kick the ball around in our streets? Isn't he the same kid who went goat tipping? That's right. That's right, I said goat tipping. And the more they thought about it, the more offended they were by what He had to say. Who does he think he is? Some big shot now who thinks he's the Son of God? Oh, come on. How dare you shame Nazareth in this way? And so they reject Him. In fact, they run Him out of the church right then and there. They don't even let Him finish. So much for that warm hometown welcome. But in a way, we can kind of understand, though. I mean, what would you think if the neighborhood boy, that you used to babysit, comes now and tells you, oh, by the way, I'm the Son of God now, and I can heal people. You'd be like, okay, I used to change your diapers. It would be a tough sell. So you can kind of understand what was going on. Because I think as people, we tend to reject God, when it comes in such an ordinary way. We expect the burning bush. We expect a great light. We expect smoke off the mountain. And I think that is actually one of the reasons that he was killed. They could not believe he came in such an ordinary way. Surely, if God came, it would be to the temple itself. A donkey and a barn? Blasphemy. But so Jesus, as this is happening, he must have a heavy-hearted sting from this, being rejected by his own people. His new identity was discarded, it was laughed at, it was dismissed. And it's that same very sting that we feel when our families and the people we know discount our new identity. It's that hurt, that we feel when God's new creation growing inside of us is denied. And so Jesus utters, the famous words, which are actually a well-known proverb in the Jewish and Greco-Roman world. And he says with a disappointed yet defiant tone, a prophet is only without honor in his own hometown, with his relatives, and in his own home. And if the old adage is true that familiarity breeds contempt, then Jesus was just too familiar, with the people of Nazareth to be effective in sharing his knowledge about the kingdom. Somebody else would have to tell them about salvation. Somebody else would have to tell them about grace and forgiveness. So, after they leave the church in Nazareth, Jesus begins to send out the 12 apostles to teach in the villages. And he knows that they are going to face the very same kind of rejection that he just faced. And he knows how it's going to make them feel, because he's feeling it now. And so he prepares them. Jesus says to his apostles, he says, whenever you get to a place and where they won't welcome you or where they won't listen to you, then leave. And as you do, shake off the dust of your feet as a testimony against them. And he snapped his fingers, maybe. Those words are the exact advice that we need to hear today to deal with the rejection that we face. You see, this statement is it's a symbolic action that was a well-known tradition. The Jews, when they were returning across from the sea, from the land of the Gentiles, they would dust it off, where that defiling dust where they had been. Because, in doing so, they were saying, that ain't going to stick on me. That nastiness, that negativity I felt in being in a foreign land, being disliked, that ain't going to stick on my soul, no way. And this is what we must say too. Whenever people discount your new identity, you say, oh, that ain't going to stick on me. Whenever people roll their eyes at your changed life, you say, oh, that ain't going to stick on me. Whenever people feed you all kinds of doubt, skepticism, unbelief, and belittle who you are today, you say, that ain't going to stick on me, because I am shaking it off quicker than you can spit those words out. Because God loves me, and he supports me. And my King says that your words have no power over me today, and I'm going to be what the great I am says I am, in spite of your lack of faith. And then you snap your fingers. The truth is that living into your God-given identity without apology has more to do with your growth and your boldness of faith than it does their lack of faith. Remember that. There's a quote from the Song of the Soul that says, he who worries about reputation has a reputation to worry about. And that a man's reputation is not his own keeping. So how do we escape our reputations? We don't. Because you know what? They don't matter. Reputation is defined as a commonly held opinion of one's character. It's not your character, it's people's opinion of it. And the opinions of others can never ever match up to the truth that lives inside of you. And besides, shake off those opinions and focus not on what other people think, but what God thinks and what you think. That day in Nazareth, Jesus, he was not able to perform many miracles, the word tells us, because of their lack of faith. And the sad thing is that because of the lack of faith, of the people in your life, in our life, it means that they will have less miracles in their life. And that makes me sad for them. But we must stand tall and in an unexpected response, in turn, have great faith in them. As Jesus, as he sends the apostles out, he also tells them, as you travel, I don't want you to take any money. Don't take a backpack, no extra sandals, no extra shirt, no extra food. And I want you to stay in the homes of people along the way. And so, and now you always hear this. And this week I really, meditated and I thought, like, what is this? What are you trying to say here? What was going on in the story? And so the answer came, saying I should view it in the context of the Nazareth rejection because it's immediately following that. You see, the apostles had witnessed the things that had happened, the way that Jesus felt, and the way they thought they might feel as they go out traveling and teaching. And I believe, that Jesus wanted to restore their faith in the goodness of people. And what better way to do that than to send them out to experience the kindness and generosity and selflessness of people firsthand. It's clear from the scripture that kindness will always be the antidote to rejection and any feelings that it can muster. So knowing this, we must show kindness and love and forgive the people who doubt us anyway. Whenever they say they don't believe in who or what we do, simply say, oh, that don't stick on me. But I love you, and I forgive you, and I pray for the same miracles that are happening in my life to happen in your life, so that you too can believe. And maybe, just maybe, your words will stick on them. Whoever has ears,